posterity's sake. That way, I can make fun of myself when I watch my own video, but wanted to be here to be with you all today. So hello, math teachers. How are you? Great. So we're here to talk about the Math Fluency Project, and this is a research project by myself and John Huppenthal, who unfortunately cannot be here today. So, but this is something that we started years ago, and I'm going to go through the history of it and kind of tell you about the science. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself because I have an agenda. So let's go ahead, and we also have two guest commentators here, Dr. Ian Jukes and Dr. Nikki Mohan, who's hiding in the back over there. And those are two research scientists and authors on gamification and game theory. And they traveled here, one from New Zealand and one from Vancouver, to be with us. So they'll be part of our Q&A session. So if you have any interesting questions to ask, you could ask them, not me. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so here's the agenda for today. Can everyone hear me well in the back? All right, great. Thank you for the thumbs up. So I'm going to introduce the Math Fluency Project and tell you what it is all about. Then I'm going to talk about our results of our early studies. So we did some really basic studies with some elementary school kids at first, just to see if people would actually enjoy it. And we found something quite remarkable. Then after that, we're going to go about what happened since we introduced this project to Making Schools Work in 2019, which unfortunately we weren't able to introduce again in 2020 for some reason. But it was actually a really great eye-opener for us. Then after that, we had a lot of challenges in the pandemic, which I'll tell you about. And then we're going to go into a lot of the science and research that went into why and how this works. So a lot of gamification, game theory, the whole entire aspect, so that you could actually get a nice understanding and foundation as to why this project works as well as it does. We also observed quite a few new phenomena, because when you get kids to answer 500 math problems a day, you start to see things that no one else has ever observed before. So we're going to kind of go over that as well. And then finally, we're going to talk about the future studies that we're trying to do in our next round to where no one has gone before. Go Star Trek. Anyway, so that's our agenda, and obviously I'm going to try to reserve about 15-20 minutes for Q&A time, but feel free to ask any questions of myself or of the peanut gallery back there, and we'll go ahead and move forward with that. So this is going to be not just a research presentation, but I hope to be fun and entertaining and also very informative at the same time. So, but I have to find out who's here right now. So anybody here, K2, I'm pretty sure, we got a few. Okay, great. Awesome. I have to ask you because I didn't ask in the past, and then I got angry scowls. And so no more angry scowls. Cool. All right, 3 to 5. All right, so we have 1. All right, so she's 3 through 5, 6 through 8. Okay, quite a few more. Then the next level, young adults, high school kids. Yep, gotcha there. All right, so who here is a math teacher? Okay, so those of you who did not raise your hand, what are you? Who are you? Anybody? What?
I teach all subjects.
Okay.
So I didn't say
Uh-huh.
specifically.
And who else is here that's not a math teacher? And what else? Okay, great. So we have a group of math teachers here. All right. Oh, that's all right. Any administrators in here? Okay, we have an administrator. Great. All right. So has anyone been to my previous session before? Raise your hand. Oh, cool. We have 3 repeats. Welcome back. I'm not that scary after all, am I? No. And then, has anyone else other than Annie heard of the Math Fluency Project before? So you've heard of it. Where did
I did it.
What?
I did it.
Oh, you did it? Awesome. What year?
Pre-COVID.
Oh, yeah, so you were one of our pre-COVID test batches. And what school is that again?
Highland Valley Career Center.
What was that?
Highland Valley Career Center.
I think I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, those were fun days, weren't they? Welcome back. And I would love to, so if you don't mind me picking on you, share your personal experiences back then as I'm going through this as well. I mean, hopefully it's positive. If it wasn't positive, you wouldn't be here, of course. Okay, great. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about me. So this is me pre-pandemic. I had short black hair. I was all clean cut. And then during the pandemic, I discovered YouTube University. And my hair grew long, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? Well, if I'm gonna cut it off, why not do something with it? So I started dyeing it, coloring it, and then watched YouTube videos, and now I'm kind of addicted to coloring my hair. My whole life I've never colored my hair, so that's why I look like this now. But that was me before that. I was, and for pretty much all my life, because my parents would have killed me if they saw me now. Actually, they will kill me. But hey, it's a post-pandemic world. I don't care. Anyway, so I want to tell you a little bit about myself, why I'm up here, and why I'm telling you about the story about the research project that myself and Mr. Hupethal did. But my story began in a Chinese restaurant. I grew up in a Chinese restaurant when my parents immigrated here when I was 2 from Taiwan. So because of that, we were, like any immigrant family, living paycheck to paycheck, very poor, trying to start a family business. And because of that, I spent my entire life in the restaurant, nights, weekends, holidays, never had a chance to go party, never had a chance to go date because you had to take care of the family. So I taught myself to be a programmer because I loved computers and engineering, and that's the thing I gravitated towards. So they bought me my first computer, a Commodore 64, really dates me now, for those of you who know, and really started to explore the possibilities of computers. And my dream was one day to never be in the food service business. So I started to study about computer-based training, did some early distance learning technologies when I was in college, even though it had nothing to do with my degree, which was probably the worst degree I could have ever picked for a Chinese immigrant family. Because as an immigrant, you can only be one of 5 things. You can be an architect, doctor, lawyer, dentist, or a loser. And I took a degree in psychology. But I took these classes because it was really fascinating to me. And then I found myself back into the food service industry because I had all this technical knowledge, and somebody said, hey, let's blend the two and build some training programs for culinary arts. But my angle was, I did terrible in school. I had a problem with with ADHD, and the current models of education did not resonate with me. So if I'm going to go into this, I'm going to do it my way. So I started developing using gamification, doing some early AI experimentation, and there we go. Anyway, so I started to develop early mobile LMSs, learning management systems, back when Apple introduced the iPhone, and we started seeing the possibility of using mobile to learn. Excuse me. So then through that process, we developed a mastery system using AI response theory. So I'm sure a few of you know what that means. And then through that was our early days of AI. So you got to think, everyone's talking about AI now, ChatGPT, everything, blah, 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 blah. It's going to change the world. Well, AI's been around for decades. If you really know anything about AI, it's been around since the 60s or 70s in a rudimentary form. So we developed our own AI system that focuses on individualized instruction and personalization in 2010. So you got to think, that was a long time ago in terms of technology. All right, so we put that knowledge into practice, so that's why we called our company KP Education Systems, because you have to have knowledge in practice. And then we started diving into the Math Fluency Project by running into John Hupethal, who I will introduce next, just kind of give you a little bit of his background. So my newest initiative is a new basically a new company called KP Pub U, where we're taking that technology, leveraging it, putting it in the hands of teachers so that they could collaborate and build dynamic, impactful lessons using AI and curate something. But on top of that, if you're building this content together, and we're going to basically sell it, you can also make money in the process too. So if you're interested in that, I have some flyers in the back if you're interested in joining that club. All right, enough about me. All right, a little bit about John. So John Hupethal, who's a researcher, started out growing the south side of Tucson. He was a mechanical engineer first, but then went into politics. So he was a councilman, state representative, and senator. He served on education boards throughout his whole life. So his focus has always been in education. Then because of that, he became the state superintendent of education in Arizona. So, state superintendent's a pretty high-level job, right? It's not a district superintendent, because we want to make sure that to differentiate it, the state superintendent. So in office, he did a lot of really great initiative. He started this project in that office, but they were lacking technology, and that's when our worlds collided. So then after he got out of office, he became a math teacher and started working with students individually. But the thing is, he's been researching this problem for over 40 years, so I'm going to go over his research here to kind of give you the background. All right, so in 2016, we did our first class in an inner city, highly at-risk youth course with high crime, high poverty, because we wanted to pick a class that was very challenging, and we had some great relationships with the principal at the school. So a fourth grade class, we went in, and we first day we asked them, okay, what is 5 plus 4? And obviously, we know the answer is 9. Most kids could say 9 immediately, but all of them had to go to their fingers and count, and then after that say 9. Some of them probably knew it was 9, but they lacked the confidence to say 9, so they still had to go back to the fingers method. So this is one of our kids who basically used our program for about a couple months, doing a 15-minute exercise every day. And so their challenge is, during these 15 minutes, they do 1-minute rounds. And during this 1 minute, they are challenged to answer as many questions as they can. So you can see he's doing pretty good now after just a couple of months, right? Would you say that's pretty good progress? Yeah. So he did not start out like this, obviously. He started out doing 0 plus 0, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, add within 5, basically. We started at the most basic level. And then they slowly progress at the most optimum speed to whatever matches the maximum efficiency of their output. So, see, we don't stick with just one standard style of formula. The x is moving on both sides of the equation, which is very counter to what's currently out there. Because we find that this creates a more diversified model of thinking, and they like it more. It's more challenging. Because the other ones, you get into a pattern. And then when you get into patterns, you're not really learning stuff. And people say, oh, is this a pattern? No, it's not a pattern. Yes, you have a question.
Does it ask the same questions, like the same problems every time they do it, or?
No, actually, that's a great question. And I'm going to go into our level scaffolding and how we select the questions, but there's a differentiation of multiple levels throughout the whole process, but it's not the same questions over and over again. It may seem like that, but if we went through this problem set, there might be 2 or 3 repeats, but most likely not. Because our item bank is extremely huge, because we create almost every iteration of a certain standard and move forward from that. Okay, so at the end of this 1 minute process, you go here, and let's look at this.
60 and 0. 60 and 0.
So there we go. 60 in 60 seconds. We should make a movie out of that. 60 math problems in 60 seconds. Instead of like, the Fast and the Furious. Okay, so this is amazing. But the thing is, this is just like, this is 2 months. We started seeing remarkable results after the first few weeks, because when we introduced them to this environment, these kids who were very reluctant to do math problems, like they were using iReady or Alex or these like other math problems, they're like click, 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 they're not really learning. But now they're engaged. So I'm going to go into why they're engaged here. But let's just see a little more progress here. So this is a couple months later. It's a little smaller, so I didn't do a good job at framing, so I'm going to play it this way. Yeah, let's zoom in. So there's 1,000 levels that the students go through, starting with the most basics, and it's all incremental. So they barely ever notice things get harder. A little slower, but still doing very well. See, there's words we start to introduce words.
Has he already seen
Yeah, I mean, that's automaticity in its purest form.
So he's seen the questions before.
No, see, he may have, he may not have.
But he's seen the pattern of how they're
Because the
on.
previous levels build into
Gotcha.
that.
So he's using a technique, like did you teach him a technique to use?
That's a brilliant question. We get asked that all the time. We did not teach them any techniques. In fact, when we introduced this program to certain schools, like a teacher would be like, this student is doing an equation and a process that I've never taught them before. So you got to think about this. Our brains are so powerful that if we do things enough times, we're going to build our own algorithms and our own theories. We don't have to teach them the theories if we give them the challenge and they find success. And that's the beauty of this thing. It's like we think we have to ingrain them with all these processes, procedures, theories, and steps. But math is an equation. Math is logical. Everything's logically progressed. So it's all digits. And yeah, so we didn't teach them that. So our job is to teach them that. Like in the 4th grade, they're teaching them multiplication. They're not teaching them these basic skills. These basic skills they've never acquired when they're in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. So, but that's a great question there. Because that's the whole entire premise of this research, is that they're able to do these things without instruction. They're doing it just out of joy. Because if you play a video game, did anyone teach you how to do the stuff that you need to do in a video game? No, you go through, you're exploring, you make it to the next level, you fail a lot, but you succeed a lot more. And that's the whole entire point, is that. All right, so this one's sideways, but I promise you it's not sideways.
Okay, go.
My name is Ryan. I'm 40 generation, and I took 9,000 points and 17,253 questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So confidence is over half the battle. And now with confidence, I'm just gonna fast forward here. You can see that now it is a higher level, doing some increasing the word counts. Doing it. I'm just gonna, oh, you got one wrong there. Oops. So slower, but still very good progress. 23. Correct. So the key to this success is that we are applying 9 scientific principles, and I'm going to go through those 9 here with you. And those principles all culminate into what we see in the success. But the first off, one thing I want to talk to you about is that the entertainment that these kids consume is highly affecting how they learn. So, back in the good old days, when we were kids, the parents used to say, hey, go shut up and sit in front of the TV and watch your favorite cartoon. So that modality was important because we're training the kids that in order to behave, you sit in front and you're watching cartoons that are entertaining you. And with that entertainment, you're passively pulling the information in, a story is being told to you, and then you're also attaching significance to these cartoon characters. So when you grow up, you go, I want to go to Disneyland, and things like that. So this process is training you that when you go to school, you're sitting in front of the classroom, you're in nice neat rows, teacher's talking at you, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I sat in front of the TV and there's something talking at me, and that makes sense, so that computes. But then when video games were introduced, all of a sudden, instead of just being a passive observer, now you're actively engaged in the narrative of the story or the game, and you're making decisions. You're deciding on how you want to get through a level. You're learning through failure. You're progressing through at your pace, not someone else's pace. So all that is how you grew up, and then you go to school. You're sitting in nice neat rows, and the stage is talking at you, and you're like, "Where's my control? I don't really understand this." And the ones who can't adapt are the ones who become disengaged, and that's becoming more and more prevalent. So what we have to do is we have to incorporate gamification and other modalities that engage the active learning styles that these active gamers are expecting in the classroom. So does that make sense to everyone? All right. So with that test result that we did with that class, this is our academic gain chart. So to explain this, 25 points is, this is a scale score of points with 25 points equivalent to 1 year of academic gain. As you can see here, our average exceeds the baseline one-year academic gain. So these students gained more than 1 year. In fact, these 3 students gained almost 4 years of academic gain through this process. In fact, if you look at the ones below the line, these are our special needs IEP students who would have typically scored at 0 or even below. So they even maintained their grade level, which is very important because it's a constant struggle to even keep them at that level, especially in this post-pandemic world where everyone's sliding backwards. So this data was phenomenal. All right, so we talked about in SRB. Oh yeah, and this is a slide because I always forget to get information, but this will take you to a Google form, or you can type in KP, knowledge and practice, knowledge and practice, knowledge and practice, and basically just asks you who you are, what session you attended, and if you want more information. Because I'm recording the session, so if you could share this wonderful adventure with your friends. And we're also creating, well, on top of that, we're creating a ChatGPT course and lesson on how to use ChatGPT, but that's not part of this conversation. But we're going to be emailing that information out through this sign-up process as well, because for some reason, a lot of people are really interested in ChatGPT. And we've done a lot of stuff with ChatGPT, like our other sessions that were attended that talked about gamification and AI. I swear I could have spent 3 hours talking about ChatGPT and everyone would have been very happy. Okay, so now moving on. So now we grew the experiment over the years. So we did 1 alpha school, then we added some more beta sites in 2018, then we added more when we came to high schools at work. We added more schools to jump on board the beta test to provide us with data. And we were so excited because we had some schools who had some great success during the 2020 school year. So not 2019 to 2020. We're like, okay, this is great. We're gonna get like at least a dozen schools to provide us with state standardized testing scores. We're gonna do comparative analysis and prove the data that this really works. All right, come the data, March. All right, we're gonna get into state testing. Let's do some state testing. April, what happened to all the state testing? Do you remember what happened in April of 2020? Well, actually, what happened in March of 2020? Yeah, so that was crushing. So I'll admit, like that totally devastated us because we were like ripping and roaring. We were ready to kind of really launch because we needed that data. So, so here we are with 0 data. Now we're trying to recover and try to build that momentum back again. So, speaking to your experience, would you mind telling us how it was back then?
Yeah, so I think it was the 2019, was that down here in Florida?
Yes, yeah.
That's where I signed up. It went well. I did it with an at-risk 9th grade class for Alpha 1. I struggled with, none of my kids looked like that when they were doing it. They weren't doing fast, they didn't find the value in it, so I had a hard time. I didn't know like how to put their numbers up. I didn't know how to show them the value in it.
Yeah.
So that was I would say a struggle for me, but it was nice. It did take 10-15 minutes, but I thought it was worth it.
Yeah, so your struggle was the buy-in, and we've come up with better strategy and techniques to create better buy-in since then, because at the time we had actually a great number of successes, but to be fair, we also had quite a good number who did not get the buy-in. Like this past year, we had like this school in New Mexico who had like complete buy-in, and it was phenomenal the stuff that they were doing. But I think
I will also say for our kids, this sounds really stupid. They didn't like on their Chromebooks. They had to do the number. They wanted to keep that on the front.
Oh yeah. Oh, they actually wanted to do the 10 key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't want the top bar. That was too hard. First 2 and 1, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on some of them like adapt that way or not. But yeah, having a 10 key is really great. And actually, I'll touch on this. But right now, in the past year, we've been experimenting, teaching preschoolers and kindergartners 10 key. Can you imagine preschoolers and kindergartners learning 10 key, and by the time they get to 2nd grade, they'd be like doing this? That's like mad scientist level stuff. So this is like this is like one of the testimonies we got from. This is a high school teacher in Paradise Valley, who basically taught a class of seniors who had 3 criteria to get in there. Failed the previous 3 years of math classes, so every single math class they failed. Fail another 2 years of two other classes, and have some behavioral issues. So you got to think, these are the people who have kind of given up on academia, and this is his thoughts.
So how much have you seen as far as your skill growth in the past couple months?
Oh my gosh, they've done so much. They used to not be able to do -3 plus 2, and now they're solving equations, finding the differences between percents, decimals, rational numbers, and a whole lot of things that have just started with just adding numbers.
So you hear that? Just starts with adding numbers. And we're trying to teach them all this like higher level concepts, but without the foundation, it's just a struggle. So it was 35% of the student body was ELL, with 20% or lower scores. But here was the phenomenal thing. When they took the end of year exams, 50% got an A, B, or C, which blew the expectations out of the water. Because these kids were destined to like, maybe they were hoping for 5–10%, maybe. But we were able to help 50% of those kids. Now, I wish it was 100%. We all wish it was 100%, right? But this is growth. So one of the things he pointed out is like, order operation, adding, multiplying, subtracting with negatives. Those are some of the skills that they were able to reacquire through this process. So then we went to a middle school. They had 6 classes of 55 minutes. They tested their classes devoting 10 minutes. And one of the worries that these teachers had, and I know everyone shares this, like, I'm removing 10 minutes of my instructional time. And the thing is, we would say, use this as bell, 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. Then you won't be losing as much, and you'll be gaining more. And what happened is they took a triple take, and their test scores went up 13%, even though they're losing instructional time. All right, so, oops, did I copy? I didn't copy that. And here's another junior high score. So here's our pre-score, post-score, and percentage change. And this is just during a summer school test where we were only there for 4 weeks. I mean, I don't have to explain the numbers. You guys are all numbers people. So during the pandemic, we were trying to do it through Zoom. Didn't work because, as you can see, the dynamic of this is, which I'm going to go into next, is the fact that they're together. So we did some tests with kindergarten, which I just told you about. And then we went to a comprehensive high school in 2021, which I'll show you some data for, where they did the entire high school, the entire body of 800 students. So this is Keokuk High School, which is the one that I mentioned. They became addicted. So their calculus kids, their algebra 2, algebra 3 kids became so addicted to the game that some of them played for 2 to 3 hours a day when they're not supposed to. So we had to actually put rules in place to say, no, you need to not do this because we're afraid of burnout. And that's a fact. If you overdo anything, you're going to burn out. We had students go and play this game at home through Thanksgiving week and Christmas break. So that's crazy. That was actually our first implementation school-wide, where it wasn't just the intervention classes or the tier 2 students. So then, like I said, we're teaching kindergartners to do 10 key, and one of the reward systems that we created was, hey, if you do really well, you'll in the game, you'll be awarded a guitar to take home and play with for a week, which was pretty funny because, I never thought that getting a guitar to take home would be a proper incentive for a kindergartner, but apparently it is. And then the last day of school,
So do you guys want to go home? You want to keep playing?
So in the previous videos I showed you, what about it didn't resemble a video game? I mean, it might have resembled Math Blasters, but I never considered Math Blasters a video game. Remember Math Blasters? Yeah. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't that fun. Some kids were saying, oh, this is like Fortnite. Like, well, where's the shooting? This is like Minecraft. Well, where's the crafting? But the thing is, if you implement gamification properly, you make it feel like a video game. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get that dopamine response from these students that they're being trained with video games. So video games is actually crafting them in such a way that we can more easily tap into the dopamine responses that the brain creates by mimicking aspects that these video games create. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. Yeah, kids are being addicted to video games, but now we're able to kind of tap into that new channel to be able to hold their attention, even though they have a lot less attention now. So yeah, give and take, but hey, we gotta create tools for everything every week, right? So then let's talk about how it works. So all that stuff, all those stats, how do we get there, right? Well, we use science. Science is the key to everything. So we talk about like the beacon of learning a lot in our speeches, because what the kids look for is a beacon, something to look up to, something to look forward to. And this beacon originated, basically if we think back to our ancestors when from the plains of the Serengeti, we were just hunters and gatherers. So if you were alone, you would starve or be eaten by a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger. So we learned to work together. And as a group, we worked together, we would feast. So in our DNA, working together creates positive outcomes. So that is a very positive beacon. And a lot of our education systems is focused on the individual, unless if we're doing a group project. But we need to really bring the group mentality back. Like the Asian cultures, I feel that they succeed a lot because they have that group mentality, where here in America, we focus more on the individual aspect of individual achievement. So we're losing that ancestral bond that was created by them. So cooperation is in our DNA. Because groups create accountability. And that group accountability drives individual action to help the group. So as part of that group accountability, one thing we did is that when the kids were doing that exercise, you see that the whole class was doing it. Because what we did is we said, hey, as a group of hunter and gatherers, you need to gather 20,000 points to succeed to the goal. And in fact, we're going to show you your progress by animating a bar across as you get closer to the goal, and we're going to reward you going over that board, that goal. So red, then to yellow, then to green, and then to blue. We hit the goal. Yay! Well, we got 3 more minutes left. Let's see how far we can get. So that drives a higher level of motivation, because now not only are they getting to the goal, they're exceeding the goal. Now they're going to feast. And this bar is magical. Like we had a time where that bar didn't work for a week, and the kids broke down. Like it was like utter chaos. It was like Mad Max type of environment. Like they're like, there's no bar. The world's ending. I mean, it's amazing how enamored they are with this. Just like any video game. And you think back to like how enamored you are with cartoon characters or video game characters. They love the bar. And you can see here we also introduced competitive elements, so they're competing against other classes as well. So that's one aspect of it. We also created an epic goal, so that the epic goal here, this is like, if we reach 1.75 million points, then we're going to have a pizza party. So now that drives them to go way over their original goal. So now they want to create even higher levels of output because we have that long-term goal that everyone sets their eyes on. In fact, that's one of the reasons why a lot of these kids went home and did this, because they're like, well, we want to have that party even sooner. Hey, pizza sells everyone, right? All right. So this is one of our students, like they actually made it up to level 99. We have like 127 current levels in our program. When I said 1,000 levels, but those levels are also sliced into micro levels, so there's like about 10 levels found within it, and that'll make sense when I talk about scaffolding. But like, look at how many hours a student devoted in this one game. 174 hours devoted to this math game. Would you want a kid to ever devote anything like that to any of your math exercises? And the thing is, that's not seat time. That's active game time, because we only count the time after they complete a round. So if they sit there and they do nothing for 10 minutes, that's 1 minute. If they sit there and do one round in 1 hour, that's 1 minute. If they complete 10 rounds in 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes. Well, actually, that's not possible, because there's a cool down period that they have to go through. That's about 5 seconds. So realistically, you can only have 9 maximum. But anyway, that's besides the point. Sorry, I got derailed there. But as you can see, engagement time, 173 hours. Would you say that's a good thing? Have you ever had a kid engage in one activity for that much? Anybody? Raise your hand if you have, please. I want to hear your miracle story. So that's just utterly crazy. Like, in fact.
Enough. Yes? Oh, that's a good question. So I had a number of you ask me, can you do this at home? Well, I mean, so who here wants to do it at home? Raise your hand. Wow, you guys actually want to answer math problems at home? That is impressive. So it's not up to me. You have to ask your teacher if that's something she wants to have. So. All right.
So these are younger kids. Obviously, older kids won't react that enthusiastically, but because the older kids will be like, yeah, sure. So and one of the things that we saw was that the EL students with special needs, and even we had a class of refugee students from I can't remember the country now, come in, and they went from not very well engaged to now like being super engaged. So we saw high levels of engagement from these groups, and here's.
Hi, my name is Aaron Arnes. I teach 5th grade at a school here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called Sonora Science Academy. We have a unique population here. We have a large refugee population from East Africa.
East Africa.
We also have students from Iraq, Syria, Turkey, as well as from here in the state of Arizona and down south from Mexico. And on the first day that my students experienced it, their excitement, you can say, was through the roof. They had all kinds of success. They were solving problem after problem.
Okay, so I mean this is a longer video, but you can see that it's all about success. So the other key is individual accountability. So we created a system where, as you saw in that background, there was a big line of blue bars. So we put this in front of the screen, the leaderboard, and this is another driving factor. So not only can the students see how many points each others have, they can see what levels they are, they can see if they're trending positively or negatively. So this creates a higher level of individual accountability. And the thing is, like, we found that, people are like, oh, would this create negative outcomes? And so far we haven't, because of video games, we're all trained and programmed to achieve. So even though these students you think at the bottom are the ones who are disengaged, they want to be engaged, because the numbers here on the right represent adjusted goals for each individual. So our top performer could do 1,600 points, where some of our performers can only do 400 points. So 400 points equates to a certain number of questions for a certain number of levels. So our top performer bar will move at roughly the same pace as all the other ones, because it's all adjusted accordingly. But you're probably seeing that we have a few reds, yellows, and greens in here. But that doesn't mean that they're failing. That means there's a challenge. And that challenge is what this student was.
But honestly, once you get in there and you just get going, you completely forget that you're even doing math. It's honestly just really fun. And the whole class looks forward to it every day. We beg our teacher, we're like, oh, let us do it.
Oh wait, wrong video, but I'll talk about the challenge in a minute. So, real-time RTA, that's what I meant to say. So the challenge that they run into is that they hit a level where they might have encountering concepts that they were not taught, or they forgot about when they're younger, so then they slow down. And as a teacher, you go, why are you slowing down? So you go and perform real-time response to an intervention. So as opposed to waiting later, we're getting a report, you can actually visually see that the student's struggling, as opposed to what they're supposed to be performing. Because the algorithm predicts and adapts to each student. So if they're not performing as we thought they would be doing, then therefore there's something wrong. So then you can actually respond to that student and help these two students pick up the pace, maybe talk through a problem or two, and really give them encouragement to then go get that aha moment right at that time. And that's important because these kids want things now. And if you wait till like you design an IEP for something that they identified, the moment's gone and they've already moved on. So this is.
I actually found out that it kind of tripped up my basic math skills, and I was like missing on kind of some stuff that I should already know.
Improve my basic math skills in multiple ways by reassuring me that I can do it and give me the confidence that I can do it, and just giving the touch up and the brushes on the basic level stuff that I missed when I wasn't paying attention.
So did you hear the last thing he said? The basic stuff that I wasn't paying attention. So these kids know that they're missing stuff. They just don't know what. And the reason why is because the way we think about this system that we developed, it's like climbing a ladder. So you start off first grade, you're climbing this ladder, you get to second grade, third grade. But if you're not, and you're building these rungs, these standards. And as you're progressing through the system, you're like, oh hey, we got to push you up to fourth grade now. We got to push you up to third, fifth grade now. So all these rungs are rickety. They're not fully balanced. They're not fully developed. And we have to push them forward because that's what the system requires us to do. And because of that, they're missing these gaps. So now let's say they're ninth grade. They're trying to do Algebra 1. And you're teaching these concepts. And what happens is they're standing at the top of the ladder and they're trying to figure out all these, like, this math problem, and these basic concepts are preventing them because they're using all their time balancing at the top of this ladder. So what that causes is cognitive overload because they're using all this energy to try to balance this ladder that they don't have any computational space left to actually take on this problem, let alone learn it. So by going through this ladder and going, okay, everyone starts at level 1. Okay, yes, you're a senior. Yeah, you know how to do 0 plus 0. I'm sure you know how to do that. But let's start climbing this ladder. And they go, okay, 0 plus 1, and then level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 10, 20, 30, and they go 31, and like, oh gosh, I'm not getting that for some reason. And then they start working on it. And then they start rebuilding that rung. And then all of a sudden when they rebuild it, that ladder goes from this to this, and then as they progress up the ladder, it's going to start to do this. And then that's when they start to be able to go, oh wait, I could subtract in my head. I could do negative integers. I could start doing these other calculations that I never thought possible. So building that ladder is key. And one of the other things we observed is that these kids are traumatized. Like, even though they know the answer, we can actually witness them going, I know the answer, but I'm going to hit it, but I'm not going to commit, because they've always had a streak of failure in the past. And what we developed is what we call the success zone. No, not the Twilight Zone, but the success zone. And what that means is, like a researcher by the name of Terry Scott said, for every 3 successes, and for every 1 failure, you need to have 3 successes to maintain positive outcomes. But we programmed in our algorithm 9 successes to 1 failure. So we want to make sure that they're constantly succeeding, and that creates the confidence. So we never level them up to a point where they're going to fall below that threshold. If that happens, then we're going to level them down to get that threshold back up again. So the way we do that is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take these people who are drowning in the system. And so you're spending all this time and effort trying to swim. But instead, if you could just get above the wave and ride the wave, then you're not expending as much effort. So this is a common story that I'm sure you've heard
I
before.
tested these kids and probably 3/4 of them did not know the math back. So I could see them just getting the confidence they needed on it. This was a big use for him. A big use. Every day he told me I was stupid.
So anyway, but you can't really hear very well because we have so many other kids screaming in the background. But you know, dealing kids will constantly say I'm stupid. So this is how our scaffolding system works. So let's say they're at level 27 in our system. 50% of the item bank that they're receiving is coming from that. So there's the question of, like, you know, what kind of question. Then we have what we call forward pressure. 20% is coming from the next level up, being slowly introduced into the mix. And then 30% is what we call back pressure. And that's coming from the previous 3 levels. So they're not just getting to the previous level, but they're getting to the levels that they previously mastered. so that we're constantly keeping them in a success zone. So that's that way they're just kind of like rolling themselves up in that whole entire process. So that success zone is critical to building confidence. So the speaking and learning is really designed to like mimic like kids in affluent environments. So anybody here in the affluent area where everyone's rich and their mama and papas are CEOs? Okay. Yeah, not everyone's in that environment. But so in those other environments, you know, they have positive reinforcement to create permanent learning. So this is all about permanence now. They get it from parents, they get it from peers, and they get it from their community. But a lot of these kids in our Title I schools don't get that. So basically what we were trying to do is we're saying, hey, you're now creating a tribe, you're creating a group within this math program. And now we're kind of creating this need for you to have this permanent skill so that you and your tribe can succeed. And that psychological aspect drives permanence into their skills. So, I know we're running low on time, but we work with a group of Native American students as well. And then basically I'm almost done here. It's just like the question you asked earlier. We did not give them any instruction or strategy. That was one of the phenomena that we witnessed. Like they were able to build their own algorithms. And they're learning through self-discovery, just like in a video game. So like, you know, one of the stories we've heard is like, you know, kids were able to deconstruct math problems that were never taught to them. Because the teacher said, I never taught them this skill. But yet they could do it. So let's just kind of wake them up. Actually, I should say, wake up! Okay. And we talk about the future. One of the things that we're going to extend this into is Alzheimer's prevention. Now, I know that we just got word that this new drug has been approved, so yay! But the thing is, like, you know, one of the things that we've been researching is how can this beacon can be used to prevent early onset Alzheimer's by removing or preventing amyloid plaque buildup, because you're building the community. So you can do Sudoku all you want, but you're still doing a singular exercise. But if you're building a community, and then we're also talking about building recursive loops, which is like taking them up to level 10, bringing them back to level 1, taking them up back to level 10, but it takes a third of the time, and now they're hitting level 20, so on and so forth. So anyway, I'm going to move on to join the project. So we're looking for schools to work with us in 2022 and 2023. Okay, well, maybe 2024 now, and also be a part of this. Like, you know, so we're looking for research and data. We're looking for participation, just like how you did what you did back in 2019. We're looking for more people to kind of come on board and provide us this information, provide feedback, and use our program. The program has improved a bit in the back end side. We have new strategies and new approaches, especially now that with what we learned in the pandemic. And we want to help more kids, because our goal is like we want to get this program to a point where we can offer this program to all the kids in the world for free. And that's kind of like our big desire. That's our goal with this platform, is to really help the world. Because this is not my primary project. My primary project is building curriculum in career tech ed and other facets as well. But this is kind of like our passion project. So sign up at KP to get this video and more information. And now I have 10 minutes to answer any questions. So any questions here? Here's our website, so if you want to learn about the Fluency Project here, that's that.
So to sign up, that's where you go, or if you're interested in using the program?
Yeah, so this is the Math Fluency website. This is just to sign up to get this information and video. And so, what do you think? Did you like it? Yeah?
So that's where you go to see.
Yeah, fluency. So we spell INT because we're trying to put the intelligence in math fluency. Intelligence. There we go. You'll play on words there. All right. Any other questions? All right. I know it's a little warm in here, isn't it? It went from cold to now to warm. I'm like, I'm starting to get a little drowsy standing up here.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for coming to this, and I hope that you can participate and be a part of this.
How long is the participation? Is it a full year, like a matter of months?